Sup? Limit here? Old man said he needed some big hacks. And he said I was the biggest hack he knew. Oh. So let's see if we can work out the mystery of the catacomb crab by hacking up their insides. Back in part 1, we learned that the swamp crab and the catacomb crab are not identical. Each have different HP, stamina, souls and item drops. But let's be a little bit more technical this time. Both of the crabs have the same ID and NPC parameter. But let's quickly go into what this means, since this will come up quite a few times. Each enemy in Dark Souls has an ID. The first starting with 0, going up by 1 with each other enemy of the same parameter. This is nothing too special. Just think of this as each enemy's name. Since there's only one catacomb crab, his ID is this, while swamp crabs go all the way up to this amount. What is important here is the NPC parameter. This essentially shows you the AI or behavior loaded. So this means that both these crabs essentially share the same AI. So what is it that makes the catacomb crab chase you forever then? Well, you might think it may be a modified variable such as ear distance, sight, and all this other shit here. Just like how the HP, stamina, and souls was tweaked. But oddly enough, all the other variables seem to be identical. So, why does the crab chase you then? So, I think I have an idea to why this happens. All enemies in Dark Souls have a leash limit. After chasing you so far, they must return to their previous patrol route or back to their home location. You can see this because this is the location they spawn when you reload the game after killing them. But I think it's a little bit different with the crabbo. It could simply be that his home point moves with him. You can see this by using the camouflage spells. Rather than scuttle back all the way back to his skeleton ball, he will return to the last place he saw you. And there's probably a pointer for all this somewhere in the cheat tables, but I don't have it on hand. So to conclude, no new clues inside this crabbo. Let's look at the passive crab next. His ID is the first of all Ember crabs and shares the same parameter of all Ember crabs. But after comparing his insides of all the other Ember crabs, I found no other differences. So I have no idea why he is such a chill dude. But don't worry, this all doesn't mean crap. What is important is can either of these crabs even dig? So, our next question. Alright, so if the crabs behave like the pigs in Dark Souls 2, odds are they will dig. And it'll probably be a recycled animation too, because this old man said so. First we need the animation ID. Lucky for us, we can directly read the animation ID and even force any enemy to do any animation ID too. The large swamp crab will only dig if shot at range. The animation ID is 3021 to borrow and 3020 to dig out once again. Both the ice crab and ember crab will never dig if shot at. And as a note, the ice crab animation to break out the ice is 1702. It is a totally different animation, but let's not complicate things yet, eh? So before we try all of this on the crab, let me explain how Dark Souls 3 sorts animations quickly. And don't worry, I'm getting there. Give me time. All enemies in the game follow a fairly simple system, and thank God that they do. Let's use the small crab as an example since he doesn't have many attacks. Any 3000 number is an attack, with 3000 being the first, and it goes up for 1 for each attack they have. Here is the small crab's moveset. 10,000 is always the death animation for any creature, 2,000 are movements, and 6,000 stores moves like dodges and rolling. And depending on the creature, they can have a good deal more animations, such as this big ass forest crab moveset for his 3,000 animations. And here we can see the ones of interest. So let's finally force the small crabbo to use the animation 3021, the dive animation, and it turns out that nothing happens. This is because the small crabs and the big crabs have different IDs and parameters, so they pull out different animations for each number. So the animations will mismatch and nothing will happen. But since we can force animations, and looking at the big crab's table, there is actually some gaps when you cycle through them. So perhaps for the small crab, earlier or later on the 3000 numbers, there could be a digging animation. So I went through all the numbers, and it turns out that no, little crab is confirmed for useless. Knowing this, we can safely discard him and look elsewhere. So the question now is, can the Ember crab dig? Looking at both Ember and Swampy, we can see they shared the same IDs. So this means the animations ought to be in the exact same place, right? So forcing him to do these two codes actually works. It even heals while underground. Interestingly, it actually works slightly differently. For both the swamp crabs, they have a chance to teleport to a safer fixed location. I think it's 3 different locations for each crab actually. So it looks like there's some other event going on here, it seems. And it even turns out that ice crabs can also dig too, despite having different internals. I'm guessing this is because they're likely just copy pasted with some extra numbers added. Since all the other animations line up perfectly, and the other crabs can't copy his unique animations, such as breaking out the ice, since it calls a null value. Now that we have our digging crabbo, where do we dig? I don't know. Let's find out. This is the path the passive crab walks. It is pretty odd considering how he kinda does a weird U-turn shimmy jimmy over here. I thought he only did that because the player was in front of him, but apparently not. Otherwise he just tends to walk straight through you. So what is on this path? Now this is interesting. Underground there are 2 rooms. Here and here. The dead end of the crystal lizard and the pretty fun guy grew room downstairs here. Pretty suspicious, eh? So let's make a path out of prism stones, bring down the small crabbo, and then dig the shit out of every single pixel on this path. Perhaps we can brute force an event to happen. And it turns out that nothing happens again. Not that surprising, really. I actually thought we had it there with the grew room, since he gets pretty damn close just walking past naturally. So, is this it? Can we finally call this myth dead? Let's talk about events first. Events are everywhere. They are going off, changing flags and doing the bulk of the game's work. Such as a flag is changed when the skeleton mage is killed, to spawn the catacomb crab after, or load the scene when you emote for X amount of seconds with a certain gesture, making the pig dig up the pickaxe, or when using the pendant and going down to Clan Man, do a trick to unlock the... Recently, in Dark Souls 1, you can now change events. This type of modding is radically different from just changing textures, modifying temporary variables, or swapping IDs. An example of altering events can be found in this great Dark Souls 1 mod, Estus quest. Normally you just use a key and leave here, but instead a custom message appears telling you of your terrible fate and shatters your Estus flask, which you can only get back for defeating the Black Dragon Calamite? I don't know. So that's pretty rad, eh? But the reason I bring this up is since you can edit events, you can also read the events. So you can see the obscure behind the scenes code written in clay English. Well, not really, it's actually in Japanese. Then turned into English, and then read through a weird program and blah blah blah. We'll skip all that shit. This is essentially the Rosetta Stone of Dark Souls mysteries. But sadly we can't do this in Dark Souls 3, or even Dark Souls 2. So, until we can read Dark Souls 3 events, we can't know for certain that the Catacomb Crab is changing a flag for being somewhere else in the map, or dying somewhere, or doing whatever somewhere, wherever. If that's the case, we're putting the cart before the crab. I imagine the pig quest spawned a pickaxe something like this. The event is triggered and it goes off and does the sequence. Not like this. Not as 3 independent triggers. It is a shame, since if it did work like this, we could brute force something to happen. Since we could just dig in the animation area and force the item to spawn. So, yeah, we would have been very lucky to make something happen. But you never know. Some events are actually tied to animations after all. Such as this one, causes the screen to shake. This one makes a little warp noise and makes you disappear. This one is pretty much the same, and there are 4 NPC animations that, if used, will kill you. It is actually pretty brutal. I'm even using hacks not to take any damage. It literally just flicks on the kill switch, and yeah, rest in pesto. And finally, and most importantly, this one makes you have a tiny head. So yeah, that's it. It is officially over. I am completely out of ideas. I don't think anyone could even suggest a viable thing left to test.
Take the passive crab to the king crab.
Oh god, this was a really bad idea. But don't give up, skeletons. I'll continue to look into this crabbo. To be concluded. Perhaps. If I find out anything worthwhile. But I wouldn't bet on it.